Yes, Kevin, Camerson, 15 Swihart Road. I guess I should have brought this up in regards to resolution 58, 2020. Got a question on Lenape Lane. I know you talked about correcting the water at the intersection of Swihart. Has there been any discussion with the private individual about fixing the landslide that's creating water coming on the road also?
We've met with them. They haven't taken any action yet.
So you're not able to put any type of French drain or nothing along the edge?
We have a under drain, pavement base drain
Okay.
along the base of that right there. So, yeah.
Okay, thanks.
It runs from the cul-de-sac all the way down to the yellow.
All right, thanks.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Thank you.
Michelle Stonemark, 40 North Apollo. I am here tonight to talk about the next steps in updating our ordinances from the meeting we had last week. Do we have any more forward movement on that? I have a couple comments I'd like to make about it too.
At this point, I would say we have nothing publicly to announce. We are still moving forward, but nothing.
Okay, I'd like to add a few things to my comments from the other night. Unless my calculations are incorrect, which is basically just me rewatching the video and counting, there were 32 people, not counting those who spoke twice, 32 people who spoke at the meeting, and 22 of them spoke out in support of updating the oil and gas ordinance. 22 out of 32 of those people spoke out in support of updating the oil and gas ordinance. Now, I don't need to tell you that it's your job to listen to the majority of your constituents. And I don't need to tell you guys that it's your job that you protect the health, safety, and welfare of your constituents, because you already know that part. So I'm just going to remind you of a few things that were said that night. Something that wasn't said that night that really bothered me was from the 10 people who didn't support updating the ordinance was compromise. You know, a lot of things have been said about, you know, friendships and loyalties and political favors, and this isn't about any of that. This isn't about your friendships. This isn't about your political friends. You know, I'm obviously friends with Cindy. Everybody in this room knows that. This isn't any kind of political favor to anybody. Because if I was coming up here asking for political favor, I would say, set the ordinance at 3,000 feet. Set the ordinance only in industrial areas. Those things are what I feel deep in my soul that where they should be. But I'm also a realist, and I also have the ability to compromise and the ability to negotiate and make things work for everybody. So I come in here and say, then let's do the setback. Instead of 3,000 feet, let's do it at 1,500 feet or 1,700 feet, like some of our neighboring communities. Let's set the insurance updates to 25 million, like Indiana Township did, just to help better protect the township and its residents from other things. Let's, I understand it has to stay in the R1 area, and everybody always talks about how, she's only doing that because of what's happening behind her house. This isn't going to change anything for me. I'm well aware of that. I don't want anybody else to go through what I'm going through right now. I don't want anyone else to see a 30-foot wall go up right in their backyard, so now I don't see anything except a nice giant black wall. So I don't want anybody else to have to deal with the things that I'm having to deal with right now. That's why I'm not asking for a favor. I'm asking you to be reasonable and to negotiate and to compromise with everybody in the situation. There were a number of things that I talked to every one of you about individually. One of them was, I talked extensively about Ron, about a place that he cleaned up. I think it was the John Day site that you cleaned up, about what a mess it was, and how Range eventually threw up its hands and just threw in the towel and abandoned the project. And for me, that's unacceptable. We can't have an industry coming in here, messing something up, anything up, and just abandoning the project and leaving it, well, too late. It is what it is. We need to set things in place so that doesn't happen. One of the other things that bothers me is there's zero accountability. For example, we have a gate up at the Augustine pad, and it clearly states in the conditions that you guys approved, it clearly states it has to be locked at all times, or unless there's a guard on duty. And all weekend long, that gate was open. all weekend long. And now there were guys working up there. They were way far in the back of the property, probably a good half a mile from that gate. So there was no guard, there was no locked gate, and yet there's zero accountability. And I called and complained, I couldn't tell you how many times that gate was, and I get it. You know, if somebody's on site, they don't want to have to unlock and lock and unlock and lock. But if they're not running trucks constantly, there's no reason for them to not stop, lock the gate, get out, get back in their car and drive away. Stop again, unlock the gate, get in their car and drive away. It's ridiculous that we don't hold them accountable for anything, including the conditions that we ourselves put into place.
I'll clarify something.
I didn't make any of them regulations. I wasn't on board then.
Okay.
Regulations that were in the past, you mean?
Yeah.
Okay, well,
There was
Cindy
one.
didn't vote for it either, she wasn't here that night, so.
You mean regulations as far as the oil and gas ordinance, or regulations specific to Augustine?
Augustine had.
Okay, sorry, just asking.
And the other thing that bothers me too, or it does specifically say in the ordinance, and I can pull it up if you really need me to, it does specifically say in our ordinance they can't have bunkhouses. And instead, they call them supervisory sleeping quarters. So I'm asking you, if Range is bringing all these jobs to our surrounding communities, into Cecil Township, and they're bringing all these jobs in, why does anybody need to sleep on site? Seriously, why does anybody need to sleep there? There are doctors who work 12, 16-hour shifts in hospitals, they go home at the end of their shifts. Our policemen work 12, 16-hour shifts, they go home after their shift, go to sleep, come back the next day. As long as somebody's always working, I get that. I get there has to be people there, I get they need a break room, but why do people need sleeping quarters anywhere? And why, and how many people are up there are supervisors? Do we have a list?
I actually think that's a point of clarification that probably we should get with Gretchen and Jordan to figure out, because I've read the ordinance a bunch of times, and to me, if you're in a supervisory role, there's no real reason for you to be sleeping, so I do think that we need to clarify that they aren't sleeping, because it does say in the ordinance, but we can ask for that, if the board's okay with that, just ask for clarification on that for in our ordinance.
I think it would be better to have some expertise personnel on hand in case something, God forbid, did happen. At least we have experience.
But how
The
many
right
of them have
people
to be
that-
there?
Well, I think they stated in the ordinance, maybe 4 to 6.
I
I
think
could be
it's-
off,
I think
6
it's-
people. But I would feel a lot more safer having people who are skilled at doing their job in case something did happen.
I would agree.
I would agree too. You mean in case something happens, then they would just wake up? That's what you're suggesting? Sort of like a fireman sleeping in a firehouse, wakes up and goes on his...
No, there would, I'm sure a lot of key decisions would have to be made at times, you know, and that's what they're paid for.
So they need to sleep in it?
Yeah.
Well, I'd like them there for the emergency as well. I mean, it makes sense.
But shouldn't there be, I guess that's where I'm having a little bit of trouble, because if you're sleeping, you're not working, and if you're, I would imagine there's a supervisor there anyways, a supervisor or more than one supervisor there, I'm not really sure how that works as far as job titles. But do you really need people there that are supervising while working, but also then supervising while sleeping? I don't know, I'm not sure.
I just think it needs to be clarified.
Yeah,
And going forward, it needs to be updated in the ordinance and clarified in the ordinance. All I hear about, the constant thing I hear from people when I talk about this, to anybody, to any of you, to any residents, constantly all I hear about is, if we change it, we're gonna get sued by Range. Range is gonna sue us, we're gonna get sued, we're gonna get sued. And my answer to that is, so what? If you, as a board, you have a right, it's been repeatedly said by the Pennsylvania Supreme Court, that you have a right to set ordinances in place that these industries are allowed to follow. Right now, this well pad is 500 feet from my house. You can't put a cell tower there. You can't put a cell tower 500 feet from my house, but you can put an industrial use well pad 500 feet from my house. The fact that that's the case is preposterous to me. That anybody who thinks this ordinance is not out of date, I mean, you're living in a dreamland where it needs to be updated. Everybody, all the communities around us have updated theirs. All the communities have done their research. All we need to do is look at what they've done. They haven't been sued, and if they have been sued, you know, it's all been sorted out in court by now, so we can learn from their mistakes. There is plenty we can learn from. We don't need to worry so much about being sued. And besides that, that's what you pay your solicitor for. He or she is not going to let you get sued, and if you do, he or she is going to back up whatever it is you guys decided on. They're not going to let you write an ordinance that breaks all kinds of laws. It's going to get, then Range is going to sue you, you're going to get thrown out in court. I'm asking you to defend your residents and not defend Range. Because Range doesn't live here. They're here to make money. And again, I know that I'm this, you know, crazy, I'm a crazy drill girl. But I'm not. I'm a reasonable human being asking for a reasonable, constructive response to updating this ordinance. And I'm asking you all to ask yourselves what you would want by your grandchildren. Would you want this 500 feet from your grandchildren? Would you want this 750 feet from your grandchildren? Or would you be more comfortable with 1,500 feet or 1,700 feet away? That's what I want you guys to all ask yourselves, and I want you to, highly want you, so bad, to update this ordinance. Thanks.
I address the question. Michelle, we do understand our job. We're here for the health, safety, and welfare of the residents.
Right.
Did you not state that you're not against the industry, but that you don't want it in your backyard? Yes or no?
I don't want it in anyone's backyard.
Yes, right, that's what you said. So,
Right.
but our job is to look at the whole 29 square miles of the township and see to it that we
It
have
can't
an
go
ordinance in
somewhere.
place. Okay, that's all I had. I just wanted to hear you say yes.
Right. No. Okay, let me be very clear. I don't want it in my backyard. I don't want it in my backyard. I also don't want it in your backyard, or your backyard, or your backyard, or your backyard, or your backyard. I don't want it in any of their backyards.
Very well.
Any of your
I
backyards.
just
I don't
asked
want it
yes
in
or
your
no.
backyard, Sheriff, Mr.
So
Supervisor.
what we do is for the whole township.
I understand
I
that.
also want to point out that, so I could forward this to Dawn, but this was the article that was in the newspaper, and it stated that Cindy Fisher, as things change through the years, different state laws are passed or whatever, and we need to go back and amend those ordinances so that they match state law. She added, protecting the township legally is a major reason to make sure the ordinances comply with the state law. It opens us up for litigation and significant attorney fees of our ordinance if it is invalid. It causes a lot of problems. I took that information when I saw it in the newspaper, and I didn't know that this meeting was being set up, and I asked our attorney, Gretchen, she's not here tonight, but she did make the statement, and I'll forward this to you as well, Dawn, just so you can have it as a backup, to see that she said, is your ordinance valid, is your question. She stated, I don't see anything that indicates it is invalid. So I just wanted to point that out, that
Well, you didn't read thanks for quoting me, first of all, and second of all, you didn't read her whole response.
this
Third of all,
is what I said. She stated, I don't see anything that indicates it is invalid.
that's not her whole response. Third of all, I actually had a conversation with her, because first of all, that quote was referencing all our ordinances, not just specific to oil and gas. Second of all, and I know that because I'm the one that said it. Second of all, I had a conversation with her after she sent that email, and I asked her, and this is a little unfair having this conversation without her here, but I asked her, and I said, so you're saying that our overlay map is valid? And I said, I find that interesting because a significant number of our neighborhoods, and I listed them, Windsor Woods, the Overlook, Timber Run, McConnell's Trails, are not included on that overlay map. That overlay map is almost 11 years old. And she said, I hadn't realized that. So our ordinance as written may be valid, but our overlay map is not.
So you're missing houses, you're missing buildings, is that what your point is?
Yeah, you're missing a lot of them.
Right.
I would make my point if you let me talk.